Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator at the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at KU.
Hello and welcome to the 80th episode of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career and Outreach Coordinator at the KU School of Journalism. Today we're joined by Mick Shafer, the KSHB Sports Director, the NBC affiliate in Kansas City. Welcome, Mick.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I had so many classes in this building, and it did not look this way at all. I think maybe this was a restroom back in the day. I don't know, but
might have been. We might be sitting in like the faculty lounge.
That was the lounge. Okay,
I think
good.
The lounge was right here, and there's like a meeting room over here, a couple offices. So you haven't been back for a while because 2020 it was right before COVID is when we had the ribbon cutting for this space. Yeah, no, I haven't been back to this building even long before that, but it's definitely changed. It's so funny whenever I go back to colleges and high schools a lot of times, I'm looking around at the equipment and the setup, I'm like, it's better than ours a lot of times. It's a bigger space than we have a lot of times. Well, thanks for joining us. I know we tried to connect 2 weeks ago, and I did not plan on the Royals being in New York.
Nobody
for the
planned on that, right? So many plans had to get changed for me to go cover the Royals in the playoffs because after September 30th, or sometimes they bleed into October with the regular season, they're just out of sight, out of mind, right? It had been 9 years since 2015, and so it was great. I enjoyed changing my plans. I had to miss one of my son's high school football games. That stunk, but like for that, I was like, okay, this is cool, and especially going to the Bronx to see him play there. So
is that kind of the life of a sports director? You never know what your schedule's gonna be like?
Right. For the most part, they're pretty good now. I think with all the millennials joining the workforce now, they make sure that there's no crazy schedules. And we were actually just talking about that today. I'm like, yeah, back in the day, internships weren't paid for, right? Yeah. You were there, you worked 60 hours or whatever they needed to earn your stripes, and now it's a little bit different. So the TV world is better than it was back in the day, because back in the day it's all hands on deck, and you're there until the sports gets covered, and you write down 40 hours on your timesheet no matter what. So it's a little bit better now. I'm Sunday through Thursday for the most part every week, unless, if the Chiefs do anything, right, I'm going to be there, right? If they sneeze, we got to be there to cover it. So you got to kind of be on your toes a little bit, but for the most part, in this point in my career, I know my schedule.
And what a time to cover KC sports. With the Chiefs' success, 3 Super Bowl wins since 2020. I know they've reached another one. The Royals playoffs, and then like you said, 9 years ago, win the World Series, and then the year before, and you've been there to cover it all. It's been
great. It makes you feel good that it was worth it, like the 2000s and the 2010s, right? Those 90s years. A lot of times, I guess the Chiefs were still good, but they never got over the hump. But I tell my staff, we actually just hired a new guy, and we were going through the interview process, and I'm like, I don't think I'm exaggerating here. This is one of the better gigs. If you're in local sports, better gigs out there. You're covering the face of the NFL every day. Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs, and we are home to the Chiefs, which we get some extra perks because of that. We're traveling with them. You're going to Super Bowls. It's a major league town. You got the baseball as well. You have Sporting Kansas City and what is now a soccer hotbed. The World Cup is coming to Kansas City, for crying out loud. I'm like, at this time in this place, Kansas City sports is kind of where it's at. And I joke with them as well. I'm like, in 30 years when Netflix or whatever's around at the time, they want to come back and do documentaries on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, they're going to be calling us up because they always call up the media people, right? So I'm like, so get ready, don't gain weight, look good in your 50s and 60s, right? When they come back to do the documentaries as this.
And were you one that grew up wanting to be a sports bar? Seems like a lot of people in that career, like early on, they know what they want to do. Is that the case with you?
I think my age.
Or did you want to be a pro athlete?
I did, of course, that. And this is my backup, right? I wanted to be a center fielder or a receiver or a point guard. None of those panned out, shockingly. But I knew I always wanted to be around sports. And I think my generation, I was born in 1977 and kind of grew up with ESPN, right? I was from Caldwell, Kansas, a small little town down by the Oklahoma border. We had 12 channels, right? And 2 of them were PBS. But for whatever reason, we had Channel 9. I still remember the channel, and that was ESPN. I grew up on it, right? And it kind of grew. It kind of started when I started, and fell in love with it. Knew I wanted to do that. And I remember being at KU. I transferred after my sophomore year at another small town, Winfield, Kansas, went to Southwestern College. And I remember like checking the box for what major I wanted to, what field I wanted to go into. And there was broadcast news and there was newspaper. I loved to write. And I was I thought the same people that wrote in the newspaper were the ones on the news as well. I thought it was like, you just go cover sports. You either talk about it or write about it. I didn't know how different their careers were. And so I remember just kind of hovering and then just doing broadcast news. And that was like, it's a sliding doors moment, right? Yeah.
And I know in your current role, I mean, you've done a little bit of everything. I mean, between the reporting, the anchoring, play-by-play, radio shows, podcasting. I mean, that's really changed since you started your career, right? I mean, the whole multimedia explosion.
You guys do everything here, right?
Yeah.
If you want to do newspaper, you better get on camera, and vice versa, right? And I say newspaper, sorry, it's a print or online, right? So absolutely, they're very separate. We did have some bleed over. It's funny, Sam Mellinger, the former great columnist for the Kansas City Star on the sports side, now he works for the Royals. We met. We're the same age. We met,
That's right.
and he had. I had to shoot a stand-up for him because he was turning his print piece into a television piece, and I was his camera guy. That's how I met him.
As a KU student?
As a KU student. We're the same age.
Yeah.
And so back then it was different. But yeah, you have to be able to do everything. Our news director will now say, think web first.
Right.
Think web first. To where like breaking news story. Okay, we're not on. Say it's 2:30. You're not on till 4 or 5, think web first. Get it on web, and then we turn around. So that's been a different kind of broadcasting muscle for me to trigger to do that, because I'm all about, just cutting my video and the 5, 6, and 10. Well, that's changing as well because a lot of it's online and it's more instantaneous. So it's very different than when I started like a quarter of a century ago.
And what about the social media component? Because that really wasn't a thing when you started either, but I know I did sports writing for 16 years, and I always liked doing a story, done, moving on. But then when social media came into play, they expect you to kind of engage with the audience, the reader. Is that a pretty smooth transition for you?
It's been all right. It's funny, there's no parameters, right, with social media or the internet, right, to where like when you're writing, they'll tell you like 500 words or whatever, you get to an end. They tell me I've got 2 minutes and 45 seconds, right? There's a start and a stop time. With online, there's no start and stop. You just do whatever you want, however much you want. There's kind of no end to it. So that's been a transition. I've enjoyed the social media part of things. If you follow me on Twitter or X now, I don't really report. I just kind of make dumb sophomoric observations because I'm like, everybody else is telling you that the Chiefs just scored this touchdown. I'm going to make fun of the end zone dance or something like that. And so that's kind of been my niche, I guess, online. But yeah, I was at Big 12 Media Days today, and I was there for a while. I'm like, I gotta get some pictures, get some video, just tweet something out, show the color, and take it to the viewers that are online.
Yeah, I think you had the tweet today about how big the conference is now. I think you said T-Mobile Center is like the only place that can.
It's crazy. I mean, we walked in the huge lobby foyer of T-Mobile Center, and it's nothing but banners. I'm still getting used to the new Big 12. Like, I'll be like, it's 9 o'clock, and Arizona's playing Colorado here on a Saturday night, and Oklahoma State. I'm an Oklahoma State and a KU fan, and my kid goes to K-State, so I cheer for a lot of Big 12 teams. And I'm like, oh yeah, they're in there. These teams are playing them later on this month, and so I'm still trying to wrap my arms around 16 teams in a conference.
And it seems like you really try to have fun with the job. I know, like with the grind, I mean, maybe making it fun is kind of a survival mode thing.
It is.
And I love that little bit you did with the KU alum, Russ and Dodd in New York, the barbecue, pizza. So I guess if the Royals had the edge, it was barbecue.
Yep.
Yankees was a pizza. So did Russin buy into that right away?
He did. Russin's cool. I always call him a TV guy at heart because we've hung out forever when he was with the Star, and we would go on the road, and he would always come out with the TV guys. And so now he lives in Brooklyn, and so I had the idea. I'm like, let's find a barbecue spot, and let's do a little breakdown. Whenever we travel, I try to do something. We went to Seattle for a Chiefs game one time, and I got 2 other writers to dress up with me. I had on a Pearl Jam shirt and a flannel and like this beanie. And Brooke Pryor, who's now on ESPN, she had Starbucks coffee cup, and Nate Taylor, who writes for The Athletic, we bought him a huge fish, huge fish. And so we broke it down like that. So we try to add some color there. But yeah, it was a great time. I don't know if you were paying attention, but we had 2 slices of pizza.
Yeah.
And when he picked the Yankees, I took a bite, and then Rustin took a bite of the same pieces of pizza.
I didn't see that.
I'm like, you had your own right there. He's like, I don't know why. I just bit right where you did. I'm like, that's fine. We're not gonna re-edit this. We're not gonna redo it.
I didn't pick up on that.
But it's funny that I always encourage the creativity part and have fun with it. But something that I've learned to balance my career of like, okay, be fun, but not like over the top, not like. Not forced or like maybe flippant with it. Don't be that. Have a good time, but then still remember you're there to disseminate the news of the day and pass along information.
And the thing I always like when I have broadcasters on here, especially sports broadcasters, how long did it take you to kind of get your own voice? Because it seems like it's very tempting to like model yourself after like an ESPN type.
Sure.
I mean, did it take you a while to kind of find that voice, or
probably like
are you still finding that voice?
No, no, I don't care enough anymore. I'm just like, oh, did I say that wrong? All right, there'll be another show in an hour. No, probably 3 jobs in, the best move of my career. So I've never lived outside the state of Kansas, which is amazing.
KSHB and Topeka, and then Wichita.
Yep, Cake in Wichita, and I was born and raised here. Went to school, 2 colleges here, and then worked in 3 markets. And I mean, it's hard to do TV and stay in the same time zone, let alone the same state.
That is impressive.
Especially with Kansas, there's only 3 markets in there. So when I was a senior in college at KU, I got hired in Topeka, and then I moved to Wichita. And then I came up to Kansas City for this startup kind of place. They've been going for only a few years, called Metro Sports. And it was a brand new world. I was used to, like 3-minute sportscast, everything's in the teleprompter, right? I type it out beforehand. This was an hour-long show, no teleprompter.
Oh, wow.
And just talking, right? And just kind of ad-lib, off the cuff. Yeah, there was some scripting, but not much. And long-form pieces, and it was awful at first, but after a while you got used to it, and it made me such a better broadcaster to where like you got used to everything going wrong, first of all, and then also no backup teleprompter, or there weren't a whole lot of producers there or whatever, and so I got really comfortable there. So I'd say early on in my time at Metro Sports, which turned into Time Warner Cable Sports Channel, which turned into Spectrum Sports, and now it's Spectrum News, I believe. So that really helped.
So what do you kind of consider your first big break? I mean, was there that one person that took a chance on you, or did you just feel like you had the skills and it was time? I mean, what do you consider?
Guy that I think is still here, I know he lives in town, Tom Hedrick.
Oh, yeah.
So Tom, what a personality, what a character. And if you don't know much about him, I mean, this guy was big time in the broadcast world.
The Cowboys and Reds and Huskers. And
called Super Bowls.
Yeah, Super Bowl
like him and like Al Michaels for a while were like the 2 kind of up-and-comers, kind of contemporaries. A legend. And I didn't know about him. I got here, I was doing his broadcasting class. And it's funny, there was Nate Bucati was in my class, Bob Fesco, I think the current voice of the Virginia Cavaliers, the one-time voice of the Clippers. I mean, so many really good sports radio and play-by-play guys. And they were all in this line. And the line for studio side was shorter. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to go to this line. And so I got an internship. I mean, I got so lucky. I had a buddy that we had this intro to journalism class. And what you had to do, you had to interview somebody in your field. So I thought big. I called up Dan Patrick. I literally called up the main line to ESPN. They patched me through to Dan Patrick, and I was able to do an interview with Dan Patrick. It was great. And my partner, he interviewed Dave Stewart, longtime sports guy who I worked with for years at Metro Sports, but I had no idea who he was at the time, at Channel 9. And this is the mid-'90s, and he was going to go to the interview. I'm like, well, I'll go up with you, hang out. So he does the interview. I'm just sitting in the background, and afterward, Dave's like, hey, let me know to my buddy. Let me know about an internship. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. He's getting an internship. He's like, I will. And so a couple weeks went by. I'm like, hey, did you call up Dave an internship? No, not yet. A month goes by. Like, hey, did you call up Dave an internship? No. A couple months. It's like, you gonna do that internship? He's like, no. I'm like, do you mind if I call him? Sure. So I called him, got the internship, and it was great working there. And I did as much as I could. Went out on shoots with everybody. Wrote scripts for Lynn Dawson, and got to know all those guys. Well, out of nowhere, we were interviewing for the sports director role for the sports team here. And it was either going to be Bob Fesco or Nate Bukaty. Everybody knew. But I was like, oh, I'm interviewing for it too, and I'll go in and take my lumps and take third place. And so I wore my only suit jacket in, and I was interviewing Tom Hedrick. And at the end, he's like, good stuff, Mickey, you're not going to get it? I'm like, I know.
That's a good header. I like it.
So I'm getting up, and he's like, hey, but my friend Ken Dudzik in Topeka is there looking for a number 3 sports guy at KSNT, the NBC station. That I think you'd be great for it. I'm like, yeah, sure. So I'm driving that day. I had an internship, so I still have my jacket on. I'm driving to Channel 9, and I call up Ken Dudzik, and I was like, can I get an interview? I didn't know how it worked. Don't ever call up the news director. And he's like, yeah, we're really looking to wrap this up soon, though. Can you come in tomorrow? I'm like, absolutely. He's like, you sure you don't have class? He's like, no, I don't have class. I totally had class. And he goes, do you have a reel? Do you have a tape? I'm like, yeah, I absolutely have a tape. I did not have a tape. So I got there, and I talked to John Crumley, the producer, and I'm like, hey, I got an interview. They're like, that's awesome. I'm like, I need to get a tape together. He's like, that's great. We'll work on it. I'm like, I need it by tomorrow. He's like, you're an idiot. What are you doing? So I had my jacket on, thankfully, and I went and I anchored a show. I wrote a whole show together, and I did it. The whole crew stayed for me after at 6:30, and they had me do a 3-minute sportscast. And I got up, and they're like, hey, do you want to do that again? I'm like, do I need to? They're like, yeah, do that again. And so fun. I did it a couple more times, and I'm like, I got some anchoring. He's like, you should put a package on there. I'm like, well, I haven't done a package. He goes, you were out last week with somebody. Go ahead on this UMKC story, work that around, rewrite it, edit it yourself, shoot a stand-up. And so I'm like, so I had my glasses on at the time. So my stand-up, I didn't want to make it look like I had the same clothes I did the same day, so I took my tie off and my jacket off. I grabbed one of Lynn Dawson's jackets and one of Lynn Dawson's ties. I took my glasses off. I went out and did a stand-up, and I said I was on the steps of UMKC. I wasn't. I was on the Opera House in Kansas City, just lying through my teeth to get my first job. And so got a package on, went there the next day, got the job the week later. Just a huge, lucky series of events.
Was it Lynn Dawson's Hall of Fame jacket?
It was not. That would have been good. But you want to know the most surreal moment is, so he passed away 22, 23, right? One of those.
Ago, yeah.
So August or September, I remember. And so in this huge church, his funeral was being held on Ward Parkway, not far from where he lived. And media was not allowed in, understandable. I'm outside. And so I have my IFB and my earpiece in, and I'm here. I'm listening to the whole funeral. Sad day, and everybody in Chiefs history is there, right? An icon in Kansas City. And John Crumley, the producer there then, and when I was back in the day, he came up and spoke, and he started talking about all the lives that Lynn touched, not only in the football field but also broadcast world. And he told my story. He was like, we had an intern that needed to do something really quick on camera, and he borrowed Lynn Dawson's clothes and put them on as a 21-year-old. And sure enough, the Lenny magic rubbed off, and the kid got the job. I'm like, oh, that's me. And I turned to my photographer. I'm like, he's talking about me there. He's talking about me. And so it was cool. I've been very lucky.
Well, I know you've touched a lot on the grind, the internships. What other advice, before we move on to the Fast Five, for a student at KU that wants to do what you want to do, what would you share with them? So
the easy stuff, I'm sure they've heard. I mean, be ready to. I mean, you got to wear every hat, right?
Yeah.
Be ready to shoot, write, edit, go live, anchor. It's not just about one thing. It never has been in sports, especially isn't now. I mean, we're a whole one-man band shop. Tomorrow, today, sorry, is the Big 12 Media Day, and our number 3 guy, right, on the totem pole, our sports reporter was there. Well, he's turning a story today, so I grabbed the camera. I shot for him while he asked the questions. That's how we do it. We shoot for each other. I'll shoot live shots, whatever. And I actually still enjoy it. So find enjoyment in every part of it, I would say. And it's got to be a real passion. It's got to be a real passion for you, because your first job might be in Bozeman, Montana, right, or some far off place that you haven't heard of. But if you have the passion for it and the work ethic, the talent and the skill will come. Very few people are really good on camera right off the bat. Very few people are below average on camera right off the bat. It's an uncomfortable situation you have to get comfortable with. But if you have the passion, you have the work ethic for it, you'll get through that. And look, it's a battle of attrition. I mean, people are going to fall off every year fall off the wayside and be like, yeah, I'm going to go into PR, or I'm going to do something with better hours or better paycheck or whatever. And just know that the better hours and the better paycheck can come if you stick around long enough, if you do truly love it. And I don't know what else I do. I've been doing it 26 years now. And
that's a good point about all in Kansas. That is impressive. Well, hey, great advice, Mick. Time for Fast Five.
I love these.
So during one of your Super Bowl stand-ups, I think it was the year KC lost in 2021, right. Great video of a fan crashing your stand-up, little shove, get out of here. What did you really want to say to that guy? And I think we can bleep it out if you have.
Right, no, I won't. I was so mad. So I had butchered that live shot at that point, and it was like my 7th of the day in the last, and
oh yeah, we found the video.
There it is. So the best part of this is
that's early morning, right?
Nope.
That was even night. Okay. For some reason, I thought it was like
it was at night. We're hour ahead. I went and ate dinner with a couple buddies that night. And I told them about the story. They're like, no way. And then they got on their phones. They're like, yeah, this is blowing up. I see this, so I'm already mad. I see the guy coming out of the corner of my eye, and he's a littler dude, so I could kind of handle him. So I stopped and I just shoved him, like, get out of here! And I pick back up and I'm like, Andy Reid says, distractions, yada yada. And then I was like, and so the best part was they took the 2-shot of Haley as our anchor back at the studio.
Oh, her laughing too.
Dying laughing. Right. And I'm like, I was sitting back to you. It's getting a little rough out here, and that thing went viral pretty quickly. Yeah, I wanted to say, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at myself. But I should have just thrown him into the bay there. But that was a funny moment in my career.
And I noticed on your Twitter X bio, you're related to the Underhills. That's very impressive. Is that through your mom's side, dad's side, or are they in-laws?
They're both. My parents are related beforehand. No, but I appreciate you getting that, right? You get the reference?
Fletch, a big Fletch fan.
Huge Fletch fan. In college, we watched it so much, we challenged ourselves to memorize it. And one time, me and my couple buddies and I, we memorized, like, we could say it word for word. And so, yeah, it's my favorite byline movie of all time. And when I first signed up to Twitter in 2009, I'm like, I'm just going to write this. I'm never going to change it.
Has that been on there since 2009? Wow.
Yeah, whenever I got on Twitter. So that, and I'm a Minesweeper champ. I do love Minesweeper. I don't know if it's on any computers anymore, but back in the day when computers started, that was like one of the games that you just play forever. And now we all just sit on our phones forever. So.
And I know you said Caldwell, near the Oklahoma border, Oklahoma State fan.
Yep.
So I assume you have like an all-time OSU athlete list. Who ranks higher, basketball player Bill Self or javelin thrower Garth Brooks?
Oh, that's a great question.
Who's higher on that all-time list?
Because I'll bring it up to people. I'm like, who's the most famous Oklahoma State athlete ever? And people are like, oh, Barry Sanders or whatever, Thurman Thomas. And I'm like, no, not even close. It's Garth Brooks because he threw javelin there. I will go between those two. I'll go with Bill. I like Bill a lot.
Bill, basketball.
They're both genuinely great human beings, right? I mean, just this area of the country, Oklahoma included, turns out just amazing people who will treat you terrific, whether they're the most famous people in the world or not, And so Garth and Bill are just great human beings. But I'll give it to Self. Those short shorts he used to wear. He played on some. He played on one good Oklahoma State basketball team, but a couple rough ones.
I think he could
down years
pass the ball. He had some assist numbers.
He was like a Gatorade Player of the Year in Oklahoma back in the day.
I think he even beat out Wayman Tisdale.
I think so. He might have. Yeah.
That's impressive. So it's an Olympic year. So summer or winter, what event is your best chance to medal in? And breakdancing is not a sport.
We talked about this. I can't say breakdancing.
No.
I've always been enamored by the biathlon. Which, if you don't know what it is, you're like, well, it's like triathlon. So what, you're just biking and swimming?
The skiing.
No, it's you're skiing, which I love to ski, and you're shooting a gun. And I like doing both, but I'm bad at both. But that's maybe it. Just because I can't imagine the participation rate in that is very high, to where maybe if I devoted 10 years of my life to that I could be like a last place at like the Olympic trials in Finland for that or something like that. No, Finland, they're probably great. In Jamaica, okay? The biathlon, I'm last place in those Olympic trials.
And I don't know if I have the most updated information in your bio. Is it 14 Emmys? Are you up to 14 now?
14. We got the Emmys coming up Saturday. I better get to 16. I'm up for 2 more, and these 2 are. I better get these. I haven't won in a couple years, so.
So the question is, where do you keep all your Emmys?
In the basement, or at friend's house.
You spread them around?
There have been times where we've gone to the basement, and we may or may not have had ping pong tournaments to the wee hours of the morning, and the winners get to take home Emmys.
That's very generous.
I think I've got them all back. Okay. And so now
got a few dings on them.
No, they do exactly. I had some beer stains on it, and so no, they're in the office now, and so yeah, I like Emmys are fun. It's a word of advice: if you have enough money and you put enough money into it, you'll win an Emmy someday. But I like trophies, so I keep putting in for them.
Well, hey Mick, I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's extremely busy. I always want to say, hey, cheers to your careers for number 80. Thanks, Mick.
I'm honored. Number 80. Let's go.